The Grand Conclave Station floated in the darkness between stars. It was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. Over 4,000 species sent their representatives here to argue, negotiate, and sometimes make peace. Today, every seat was filled. Every screen across 1,000 worlds carried the same image. Ambassador Elena Vasquez of Earth was about to speak. Elena was 63 years old. Her hair had turned gray in service to the galaxy. She had spent 40 years traveling from world to world, solving problems that were not her own. She had missed her daughter's childhood. She had buried her husband while negotiating a trade deal 6,000 light years from home. She had given everything to these people who now watched her with curious eyes. She looked out at the assembly. The Vorix delegation sat in their section, their massive bodies covered in thick armor plates. They had almost destroyed the Crithian Empire 2 centuries ago. Elena's predecessor had stopped that war. The Aelith Collective floated in their water tanks, their musical voices creating harmony even in silence. Humans had helped them heal after the machine wars broke their hive mind. The Shikari sat tall and elegant, their silver skin reflecting the lights. They called themselves humanity's oldest friends. Elena wondered if any of them understood what they had cost her people. Distinguished representatives, she began. Her voice was calm. She had practiced this speech for months. I stand before you today to deliver a message from Earth and all human colonies. The chamber was silent. 4,000 species held their breath. Effective immediately, humanity is withdrawing from all galactic political activities. We will honor existing trade contracts until they expire. We will not renew them. We will not participate in further negotiations, peacekeeping missions, or diplomatic exchanges. We will close our borders to all non-emergency traffic. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the chamber exploded. The Vorix High Admiral rose to his full height, nearly 3 meters of muscle and bone. This is unacceptable. You cannot simply leave. The Aelith First Singer's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Please, Ambassador, tell us what we have done wrong. We will make amends. 100 other voices joined the chaos. Elena stood quietly and waited. Counselor Teveth of the Shikari raised his hand. Slowly the chamber fell silent. He was old, even by Shikari standards. He had known Elena's grandfather. He had watched 3 generations of human diplomats work themselves to exhaustion for the galaxy's sake. Elena, he said softly, using her first name. My friend, surely this can be discussed. Whatever grievance your people hold, we can address it together. That is what we do. That is what you taught us to do. Elena looked at him. For a moment her mask slipped. Teveth saw something in her eyes that he had never seen before. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was exhaustion so deep it had become part of her soul. Teveth, she said, do you remember the Cygnus Plague? The chamber went quiet again. The Cygnus Plague had struck human colonies 12 years ago. It had been the worst disaster in Earth's history since the old wars. We lost 2.3 billion people, Elena continued. Mothers, fathers, children. Entire colonies went silent. We sent emergency requests to this assembly. We begged for medical researchers. We pleaded for supplies. We asked for anything you could spare. She paused. The silence was heavy. You debated for 7 months. 7 months while my people died. Your committees formed subcommittees. Your councils requested additional information. Your bureaucrats filed reports. The Aelith First Singer made a sound of distress. Several representatives looked away. When your help finally arrived, it came 3 days after we had cured the plague ourselves. We did it alone. We buried our dead alone. We rebuilt alone. Elena's voice did not rise. Somehow that made it worse. And then, 6 months later, when the Crethian border dispute threatened to become a war, you called us. You asked us to send diplomats. You needed us to fix your problems. She let that hang in the air. We went, because that is what humans do. We help. We have always helped. For 300 years, we have answered every call. We have mediated your conflicts. We have rebuilt your economies. We have counseled your traumatized populations. We have given you our best minds, our best hearts, our best years. Elena looked around the chamber one last time. And when we needed you, you gave us silence. High Admiral Krethos of the Vorix stood again. His voice was quieter now. Ambassador, we did not realize the bureaucratic delays were unfortunate, but surely unfortunate. Elena smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Yes, that is the word your council used in its official apology. An unfortunate delay. 2 billion people, Admiral. My sister was one of them. The Admiral had no response. We are tired, Elena said. We are so very tired. And we have finally accepted a truth that we should have understood long ago. In the end, we only have each other. You taught us that lesson. We have learned it well. She gathered her documents. Around her, representatives were calling out, pleading, demanding. The Aelith sang songs of sorrow. The Shikari sat in stunned silence. Teveth reached toward her, his silver hand trembling. Elena, please. We can change. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. She stopped at his words. For a moment, she looked at the old alien who had been her mentor, her friend, her family, when her own family was too far away to reach. You had 300 years of chances, Teveth. You had every opportunity to see us as partners instead of servants. You chose not to. She touched his hand briefly. A goodbye. Perhaps in time you will understand. Perhaps you will build something new, something better without us. I hope you do. I truly hope you do. Then Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked out of the Grand Conclave. She did not look back. Behind her, the galaxy began to panic. On Earth, people watched the broadcast in homes and parks and workplaces. Many cried, some cheered. Most simply felt a strange sense of relief, like putting down a weight they had carried so long they had forgotten it was there. The stars still burned, the ships still flew, but something had changed. For the first time in 3 centuries, humanity would live for itself. Whatever came next, they would face it together, just themselves, just humans. It was terrifying. It was liberating. It was finally their choice to make. 3 months had passed since humanity closed its borders. The galaxy was beginning to crack. On Krethis Prime, the capital world of the Krethian Empire, Ambassador Takith stared at the reports on his desk. The numbers made no sense. Trade with the Vorix hegemony had dropped by 60%. Border incidents had increased by 400%. 2 colonies were threatening to leave the empire entirely. The peace treaty with the Vorix was 200 years old. It had survived wars, plagues, and political revolutions. It was supposed to be unbreakable. Taketh pulled up the treaty documents. He had read them many times before, but now he read them differently. He noticed things he had never seen. Small clauses about cultural exchange programs, minor adjustments to trade routes, tiny provisions for joint scientific research. Every single one had been suggested by human diplomats. He dug deeper. He found records of human negotiators visiting both empires separately, dozens of times over the centuries. They had smoothed over insults before they became incidents. They had adjusted trade terms before they became unfair. They had organized festivals where Krethian and Vorix children played together, building friendships that would last lifetimes. The treaty had not survived because it was well written. It had survived because humans had spent 200 years constantly repairing it, adjusting it, nurturing it like a garden that needed daily care. Now the gardeners were gone, and the weeds were already growing. Far across the galaxy, the Merchant Consortium was experiencing something it had not seen in 2 centuries. Economic collapse. It started small. A shipping company failed, then a bank, then an entire trading house that had operated for 600 years. The crashes spread like fire, each one causing 3 more. Consortium analysts worked day and night to understand what was happening. They found the answer in the most boring documents imaginable. Regulatory guidelines, tax adjustments, interest rate recommendations. For 300 years, human economists had been quietly submitting suggestions to consortium committees. Small changes, minor adjustments. Nothing dramatic. The consortium had accepted most of them without much thought. They seemed reasonable. They seemed harmless. Now the analysts realized the truth. Those small suggestions had been preventing disaster. Humans had seen weaknesses in the galactic economy that no one else could see. They had been patching holes before anyone knew they existed. Without those patches, the holes were becoming chasms. The consortium's chief financial officer, a being named Vex, who had 17 tentacles in a mind built for numbers, called an emergency meeting. "We need human economists," Vex said. "We need them immediately." "They will not come," another official replied. "We have asked. They have refused." Vex's tentacles curled in distress. "Then we must learn to do what they did. Surely it cannot be that difficult." It was that difficult. Within a month, 2 more trading houses collapsed. The consortium began rationing certain goods for the first time in living memory. On the Aelith homeworld, things were even worse. The Aelith were a collective species. Their minds were linked together in a great harmony. They thought together, felt together, dreamed together. It was beautiful. It was also fragile. 10,000 years ago, the machine wars had nearly destroyed them. Artificial intelligences had tried to exterminate all organic life. The Aelith had won, but at terrible cost. The trauma had damaged their collective mind. For thousands of years afterward, they had suffered from what they called dissonance. Painful memories would surface without warning, causing mass panic across their entire population. Human counselors had helped them heal, patient, gentle therapists who spent decades learning to communicate with the hive mind. They had developed techniques to process the ancient trauma. They had taught the Aelith to face their painful memories instead of running from them. Now, without those counselors, the dissonance was returning. First singer Meladine felt it happening. She felt millions of her people suddenly gripped by terror as ancient memories surfaced. She heard the screaming inside the collective mind. She tried to use the techniques the humans had taught her, but she was not skilled enough. No Aelith was. They had let the humans do this work for so long that they had never learned to do it themselves. "We are breaking apart," Meladine sang to her council. "Without the human healers, we cannot hold ourselves together." "Then we must beg them to return," a counselor replied. "They will not return. They have made this clear." "Then what do we do?" Meladine had no answer. In the outer rim, where the galaxy's edge faded into empty darkness, the first shots were fired. It was a small dispute. 2 colony worlds claimed the same asteroid field. They had argued about it for decades. Nothing serious. Human peacekeepers had always been there to calm things down, to suggest compromises, to remind everyone that the asteroids were not worth dying for. Now there were no peacekeepers. The arguments grew heated. Insults were exchanged. A patrol ship fired a warning shot that hit an enemy vessel by accident. Within 3 days, both colonies were bombing each other from orbit. 40,000 people died. The fighting spread to neighboring systems. More colonies chose sides. More ships joined the battle. Counselor Teveth watched the reports from his office on the Shikari homeworld. His hands trembled as he read the casualty figures. He had ordered his staff to compile a complete record of every human contribution to galactic civilization over the past 300 years. He had expected a long document. He had not expected 47,000 pages. Humans had done everything. They had mediated 2,000 conflicts. They had trained doctors on 300 worlds. They had rebuilt ecosystems on planets scarred by war. They had developed educational programs for species that could not read. They had counseled grieving populations after natural disasters. They had done all of it quietly, efficiently, without asking for recognition. And the galaxy had never thanked them. Not once. Not properly. Teveth put down the report. He was crying. The silver tears of his species ran down his face and fell onto the pages. "We did not deserve them," he whispered to himself. "We never deserved them." Outside his window, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, humanity was living its new life, free from the burden of saving everyone else. And everywhere else, the galaxy was falling apart. 1 year after the withdrawal, the Galactic Assembly sent its most important delegation in history, 3 ships carrying 3 of the most respected beings in the galaxy. Counselor Teveth of the Shikari, High Admiral Krethos of the Vorics, First Singer Meladine of the Aelith. Together, they represented the 3 most powerful civilizations outside of humanity. They traveled for weeks to reach the edge of human space. The solar exclusion zone, humans called it, a line in space that no alien ship could cross without permission. The delegation expected to find warships, massive battle stations, weapons powerful enough to destroy stars. Instead, they found a small patrol vessel. It was barely larger than a shuttle. Its hull was painted with a simple logo, Earth Custom Service. A single human appeared on their screens. He was young, perhaps 30 years old. He had brown skin and kind eyes and a uniform that looked like he had worn it many times. "Good morning," he said. "I'm Officer James Chen. How can I help you today?" Tveth leaned forward. "Officer Chen, we are an official delegation from the Galactic Assembly. We request permission to travel to Earth for urgent diplomatic discussions." James Chen nodded politely. "I understand, Counselor. Unfortunately, you don't have visas. Without proper documentation, I can't authorize entry into human space." Admiral Krethos made a sound of frustration. "This is absurd. We are not tourists. We represent 4,000 civilizations. The fate of the galaxy depends on this meeting." "I understand the situation is serious, Admiral." James did not seem bothered by the Vorix's size or his reputation. "But the rules are clear. No visas, no entry. I can connect you with our visa office if you'd like to begin the application process." "How long does that take?" Melodine asked. "Standard processing is about 18 months. Expedited processing takes 6 months." 6 months? Tveth felt his heart sink. "We do not have 6 months. The galaxy is falling apart." James Chen's expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry, Counselor. I really am. But I don't make the rules. I just enforce them." They negotiated for hours. They offered bribes. They made threats. They begged. James Chen remained polite, helpful, and absolutely immovable. He was not rude. He was not hostile. He simply did not allow them to pass. Finally, he offered a compromise. "I can set up a holographic link to our foreign secretary. You can conduct your discussions remotely. It's the best I can do." The delegation had no choice. They accepted. The holographic image of Marcus Webb appeared in their conference room. He was in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. He looked like a man who had not slept well in a very long time. "Distinguished representative," he said, "I'm told you wish to discuss humanity's return to galactic politics." "Yes," Tveth spoke first. "Secretary Webb, the situation is desperate. The war between Krethia and Vorix has killed 3 billion people. The Merchant Consortium has collapsed. The Aelith are experiencing psychological fragmentation. We need your help." Marcus Webb nodded slowly. "I am aware of these developments. We monitor galactic news." "Then you must understand why we are here. We are prepared to offer anything: trade rights, political privileges, seats of honor on the Assembly, formal apologies for past wrongs. Name your price, and we will pay it." The human was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle. "Counselor Tveth, do you know why humanity first decided to help the galaxy?" Tveth hesitated. I assumed it was for economic benefit, political influence, the usual reasons." "No." Marcus shook his head. "When our ancestors first achieved faster-than-light travel, they found a galaxy on fire. The Great Harmony War had been raging for 10,000 years. Species were dying, worlds were burning. Your civilizations were so broken, so traumatized, that you had forgotten how to stop fighting." He paused. "Our ancestors were terrified. They were small and weak. Logic told them to hide, to let you destroy each other, to build their strength in secret. But they made a different choice. They chose to help, not because it benefited them, not because they expected gratitude, simply because someone had to and no one else would." The delegation was silent. "For 300 years, we have kept that promise. We have given you our best people, our finest minds, our warmest hearts. We have sacrificed careers and families and lives for your sake." Marcus's voice grew heavy. "And when the Cygnus plague struck, when we lost billions of our own people, we came to you for help. Do you remember what happened?" "The bureaucratic delays," Admiral Krethos said quietly. "The debates." 7 months, Marcus said. "We watched our children die for 7 months while your assembly discussed procedure. My wife was on Cygnus Colony 4. She died waiting for medicine that never came." The room felt cold. "We do not blame you for the plague," Marcus continued. "These things happen, but we blame you for your indifference. We blame you for treating us like servants instead of partners. We blame you for taking 300 years of sacrifice and giving nothing back. Melodine's voice was barely a whisper. We are sorry. We are so deeply sorry. I believe you, Marcus said. I believe you are sorry now that you need us. But where was this sorrow when we needed you? Where were these apologies when our people were dying? No one answered. Humanity has made its choice. We will live for ourselves now. We will raise our children in peace. We will build our future without carrying the weight of a galaxy that never appreciated us. Teveth felt tears forming again. Is there nothing we can do? Nothing we can offer? Marcus Webb looked at him with something like sympathy. You can learn to save yourselves. That is what we would have wanted all along. Not to be your servants forever, but to teach you to stand on your own. The holographic image flickered. I wish you well, counselor. I truly do. But humanity's answer is no. The image disappeared. The delegation sat in silence for a long time. Outside, the stars continued to burn. Somewhere beyond that invisible line, 8 billion humans were building a new future. A future that no longer included saving everyone else. And the galaxy, for the first time in 3 centuries, was truly alone. 18 months after the withdrawal, a young Shikari named Viren made a discovery that would change everything. Viren worked in the Archive of Ages, a vast library on the Shikari homeworld that held records going back 50,000 years. It was boring work. She spent her days organizing old documents, filing reports, maintaining databases. She had taken the job because it was quiet, because it let her think, because she wanted to understand why the galaxy had fallen apart so quickly. She started by reading everything she could find about humanity's first contact with the galaxy. The official records were thin. Humans had arrived, offered friendship, and begun helping. Simple, clean, boring. But Viren was not satisfied with official records. She dug deeper. She found old files that had been classified and forgotten. She found personal diaries from Shikari observers who had been present at first contact. She found things that made her heart stop. The galaxy humanity had found was not the peaceful civilization of the present day. It was a nightmare. The Great Harmony War had been raging for 10,000 years. Over 90% of all intelligent species had been destroyed. The survivors were broken, traumatized, and violent. They had forgotten how to trust. They had forgotten how to cooperate. They killed each other over insults, over resources, over nothing at all. When humans arrived, they found a galaxy on the edge of extinction. Vren read the accounts with growing horror. Human observers had watched species destroy each other over minor disputes. They had seen worlds burn to ash over centuries-old grudges. They had witnessed the slow death of civilizations that had simply given up hope. And then she found the document that changed everything. It was a human internal memo, somehow preserved in the Shikari archives. It was dated 312 years ago. It was titled Project Renaissance. Vren read it 3 times to make sure she understood. The humans had made a choice. They could have hidden. They could have let the galaxy destroy itself. They could have emerged afterward to claim the ruins. It would have been safer. It would have been smarter. Instead, they had decided to save everyone. Project Renaissance was not a single plan. It was a philosophy, a commitment, a promise that humanity would do whatever it took to heal the galaxy, no matter how long it took, no matter the cost. Vren traced the project's effects through history. Every major peace treaty of the past 3 centuries had human fingerprints. Every economic recovery had been guided by human advisors. Every cultural exchange, every joint research project, every friendship between species had been quietly encouraged by human diplomats working behind the scenes. The Krathian-Vorix peace had not survived because both sides wanted peace. It had survived because humans had spent 200 years preventing every small conflict from becoming a big one. The merchant consortium had not remained stable because of good economics. It had remained stable because humans had been secretly fixing every flaw in the system before anyone noticed. The Aelith had not healed from the machine wars on their own. Humans had spent decades learning their psychology, developing treatments, training counselors. Everything. Humans had done everything. Vren sat in the archive, surrounded by evidence, and wept. The galaxy had not simply been ungrateful. The galaxy had been blind. It had taken 300 years of sacrifice and never once asked who was providing it. It had accepted human help like air, like water, like something that existed naturally and would always be there. And now it was gone. And the galaxy was remembering what existence had been like before. Vren gathered her evidence. She compiled her research. She requested a meeting with Counselor Teveth. When she presented her findings, the old Shikari did not speak for a long time. He simply stared at the documents, his silver face reflecting their light. "I knew they helped us," he finally said. "I knew they were important. But they saved us," Varen said. "They saved everyone. For 300 years, and we never knew. We never even thought to ask." Teveth closed his eyes. "We called them our friends, our partners, but we treated them like servants. We took everything they offered and gave nothing back. What do we do now?" The old counselor opened his eyes. Something had changed in them. Something hard had become soft. Something proud had become humble. "We tell the truth," he said. "We tell everyone the truth. Let the galaxy see what it has lost. Let every species understand what humanity did for them. And then we must become worthy of what they gave us." The broadcast went out to every world, every station, every ship in the galaxy. Counselor Teveth spoke for 3 hours. He read from the ancient documents. He showed the evidence. He hid nothing. He told the galaxy that humanity had not been helping them out of self-interest. Humanity had been saving them, quietly, patiently, for 300 years, without asking for anything in return. He told them about the galaxy before humanity, the wars, the death, the despair. He told them what humanity had found and what humanity had chosen to do about it. And then he apologized. Not the formal political apology of governments, a real apology, from his hearts. "We did not deserve them," he said, his voice breaking. "We took their sacrifices for granted. We let them carry us for 3 centuries and never once offered to share the burden. We are ashamed. We should be ashamed." Across the galaxy, beings watched in silence. Many wept, some with sadness, some with shame, some with a grief they could not name. For the first time, the galaxy understood what it had lost. And somewhere, in the quiet darkness of human space, 8 billion people watched the broadcast too. They watched an old alien cry for them. They watched a galaxy finally understand. It did not fix anything. It did not bring back the dead or undo the years of neglect. But it was a beginning, a small crack in the wall that humanity had built around itself. Perhaps some humans thought there was still hope. Perhaps, 2 years after the withdrawal, the galaxy was burning. The war between Krethia and Vorax had spread to 16 star systems. 8 billion people had died. Entire worlds had been reduced to ash. Both sides claimed they wanted peace, but neither side knew how to achieve it without humans to show them the way. The merchant consortium had collapsed completely. Trade routes that had operated for centuries went silent. Worlds that depended on imported food began to starve. The economic systems that humanity had carefully maintained for 300 years had fallen apart in less than 2 years. The Aelith collective was fragmenting. The dissonance had grown so severe that entire sections of the hive mind had disconnected from the whole. Millions of Aelith wandered alone, cut off from their people, slowly going mad from the isolation. Everywhere, the galaxy was dying. Counselor Teveth watched the reports from his office. He had aged 10 years and 24 months. His silver skin had grown dull. His movements had become slow. He had spent every day since the broadcast trying to hold things together, trying to apply the lessons from the human records, trying to be what humanity had been. He had failed. He was not human. None of them were. They did not have 3 centuries of practice. They did not have the patience, the skill, the endless capacity for hope that had made humanity's work possible. Teveth made a decision. Perhaps it would be his last act as a public servant. He requested time before the Galactic Assembly. He asked for a galaxy-wide broadcast, and then he did something that no Shikari had ever done in public. He knelt. In Shikari culture, kneeling was the ultimate act of submission. It meant giving up all pride, all dignity, all pretense of equality. It was done only before gods, and even then, rarely. Teveth knelt before the cameras, before the assembly, before humanity. I speak to the humans, he said, his voice echoing across 1,000 worlds. I speak not as a counselor, not as a representative, but as one being to another, as one person to a people who deserve so much more than they ever received. He paused. The galaxy held its breath. We understand now. We understand what you did for us. We understand what we lost. We understand that we do not deserve your help. We do not deserve your kindness. We do not deserve you. Tears fell from his eyes, silver drops that sparkled in the light. But I am not asking you to save us. I am asking you to teach us. Teach us how to save ourselves. Teach us how to be what you believed we could be. We are ready to learn. Finally, after 3 centuries of blindness, we are ready to learn. He bowed his head to the floor. Please. Across the galaxy, others followed. The Vorix admiral knelt, his massive body lowering in a gesture his species used only for defeated enemies. The Aelith first singer knelt, her musical voice silent for the first time in memory. Leaders and citizens, soldiers and children, billions of beings across 4,000 species knelt and added their voices to the plea. Please. On Earth, the Global Council watched the broadcast in stunned silence. The images were overwhelming. An entire galaxy on its knees, begging not for rescue but for education. The debate lasted 3 days. Many wanted to refuse. They had built a good life in the past 2 years. Their children were happy. Their communities were thriving. Why should they carry the galaxy's burden again? Elena Vasquez, now retired, asked to speak. She was 70 years old. Her hair was white. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was still strong. I spent 40 years serving the galaxy, she said. I gave everything I had. I missed my daughter's childhood. I buried my husband alone. I watched my sister die during the plague. I have every reason to say no. She looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. But that is not why we helped them. We did not help them because they deserved it. We did not help them because they were grateful. We helped them because it was right, because someone had to, because we hoped that someday they would learn to do it for each other. She smiled, and there was something soft in her eyes that had not been there for years. Look at them. Look at what they are doing. An entire galaxy, admitting its mistakes, asking to learn. That is what we wanted all along, not to be their servants forever, but to teach them to stand on their own. She took a breath. They are ready now. They are finally ready. And if we turn away, we become what we always feared becoming. We become them, the people who had the power to help and chose not to. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Humanity would return. 6 months later, the first human ships crossed the solar exclusion zone. They did not carry diplomats or politicians. They carried teachers. Officer James Chen, the customs officer who had stopped the delegation 2 years before, was assigned to greet the first visitors at the border. He stood at his post as a small Shikari shuttle approached. Counselor Teveth emerged, looking older and more fragile than James remembered. Behind him came representatives from a dozen species, all carrying tablets, all ready to learn. Welcome to human space, James said. What would you like to learn first? Teveth's voice cracked. How to be worthy of what you gave us. James reached out and clasped the old alien's shoulder. A human gesture, something Teveth had learned to treasure. That is the easy part, James said. You just have to choose it, every day, no matter how hard it gets. He smiled. And now you will not have to choose it alone. Behind them, the first human teaching ships were already departing for distant worlds. They carried doctors and engineers and counselors and economists. They carried hope, but more importantly, they carried lessons. The galaxy would learn to heal itself. It would take time. It would take effort. It would take generations of work. But humanity had proven that such work was possible. And now, for the first time, the galaxy was ready to try. The stars burned on as they always had. But something had changed. Something had healed. And somewhere, in the great archive of ages, a young Shikari named Viren added a new entry to the records. She titled it simply, The Day We Became Students. It was the beginning of a new chapter. For humanity. For the galaxy. for everyone, together.